You have an incredible amount of power at this moment in time. Why should we trust you?
You shouldn't.
Everyone knows OpenAI, but who is truly the man behind it? And why is he considered one of the most controversial, powerful, and dangerous men in the world? Today, we go beyond the code of the AI that rewrote the rules of the world to take an up-close look at a ruthless, cinematic power struggle. The very one that drove him to cut Elon Musk out of the game. San Francisco, November 2022. Inside a dimly lit office, a group of elite engineers was drinking wine to celebrate an academic anniversary. It was a classic, self-indulgent Silicon Valley ritual. But in the corner, one programmer refused to leave his desk. When offered a glass, he didn't even look up. He simply muttered that the hardware was melting, the graphics processing units were overheating, and the infrastructure was on the verge of a total meltdown. That chaotic night, a minimalist domain went live without a single press release. Chat.com. What followed was not a product launch, it was a digital flash flood. 1 million users in 5 days. 100 million in a month. It shattered the growth records of TikTok and Instagram combined. In a matter of weeks, it altered global equity markets, disrupted education systems, and triggered a $1 trillion geopolitical arms race. The man standing at the epicenter of this shift did not write a single line of ChatGPT's code. He is not a decorated computer scientist, nor is he considered a technical prodigy by his peers. His true genius lies in a much scarcer commodity: the absolute mastery of human leverage and the flawless execution of narrative control. This is not only a story about artificial intelligence, this is a chronicle of a psychological masterclass. Today, his corporate vehicle, OpenAI, is a leviathan valued near $900 billion, commanding the second largest private valuation on Earth. Grab a seat. This is Venture, and today we tell you the calculated and ruthless ascension of the ultimate tech sovereign, Sam Altman. Long before he became the self-appointed gatekeeper of humanity's future, Samuel Harris Altman was an ordinary suburban kid dissecting an Apple Macintosh in St. Louis, Missouri. Born to a real estate agent and a dermatologist, he wasn't a child of inherited billions, nor was he a starving prodigy. He was simply a hyper-observant outsider. At 16, navigating a conservative private school environment, he made the difficult decision to come out. Isolated, he took refuge in the early architecture of the internet. In those chat rooms and digital forums, young Altman didn't just discover technology, he decoded human psychology. He realized that networks are governed by perception, and if you can manipulate the perception of a network, you can dictate its reality. By 2005, a 19-year-old Altman walked away from a computer science degree at Stanford to chase his first startup, Loopt. The premise was ahead of its time, a real-time location tracker for friends. The execution, however, was a ghost town. Internal documents would later reveal a devastating truth. Loopt's real active user base was stuck at a miserable 500 people. But when talking to the bigs of venture capital, Altman didn't talk about the empty servers. He talked about the inevitable future. He projected numbers 100 times larger with such unshakable composure that Sequoia Capital, the most cutthroat investment firm in the Valley, handed him over $30 million. In 2012, Loopt was quietly swallowed by a financial corporation for $43 million and promptly dismantled. It was a dead product, but Altman walked away with millions in personal wealth and a flawless reputation. He had weaponized the ultimate Valley paradox. He turned a functional bankruptcy into a personal resume highlight. He proved that in the game of high finance, a mesmerizing narrative is far more valuable than a working product. This rare ability to spin failure into gold caught the eye of Peter Thiel, the billionaire libertarian philosopher and co-founder of PayPal. Thiel, who views technology not as a commercial toy, but as a force meant to replace inefficient political systems, saw something rare in Altman. He described him as a messianic figure. Backed by Thiel's network, Altman was handed the keys to Y Combinator in 2014, becoming the president of the world's most powerful startup factory. Suddenly, Altman wasn't just a founder playing the game. He was the dealer distributing the cards. Under his watch, companies like Airbnb, Stripe, and Reddit passed through his ecosystem. He sat at the absolute crossroads of global innovation. He saw every trend before it happened, possessed a piece of every major pie, and masterfully cultivated the image of a benevolent techno-optimist, a philosopher king preaching that technology would soon cure poverty, climate change, and human suffering. But behind this utopian curtain, a cold, calculating corporate machine was being assembled. In 2015, OpenAI was introduced to the public as a non-profit shield against corporate greed. The marketing pitch was brilliant. An open-source research lab dedicated to saving humanity from the threat of unaligned artificial intelligence. It was the ultimate ethical magnet, attracting world-class minds like machine learning wizard Ilya Sutskever away from tech monopolies. But high-end research requires astronomical amounts of electricity and compute power. By 2019, Altman abandoned the non-profit purity. He engineered a massive corporate restructuring, establishing a for-profit commercial branch. Microsoft immediately stepped in with $13 billion. But this was a brilliant loop of modern corporate alchemy. A massive portion of Microsoft's multi-billion-dollar investment never actually left Microsoft's accounts. It was immediately recycled back to the tech giant to pay for compute time on their proprietary Azure cloud infrastructure. By 2015, OpenAI emerged as a public benefit corporation, technically bound to societal interest. Private institutional capital held 47% of the equity. Microsoft commanded 27%, and the legacy nonprofit foundation retained 26% nominal control. But its balance sheets tell a far more perilous story. OpenAI is currently executing the most aggressive financial cash burn in technological history. While generating a staggering $13 billion in annual revenue, the company is absorbing roughly $8 billion in yearly operational losses. Its free cash flow is deeply underwater, projected to bleed billions annually until at least 2029. The cost of maintaining the physical data center infrastructure is simply too vast for any current software subscription model to sustain. Altman has committed to a mind-boggling $1 trillion infrastructure build-out over the next 8 years. Yet less than 1% of that capital is covered by organic incoming revenue. Worse, the monopoly is cracking. Google is weaving Gemini into its global infrastructure. Anthropic's Claude is beating ChatGPT on critical academic benchmarks. And foreign players like China's DeepSeek have proven that elite models can be trained on a shoestring budget. Faced with a financial abyss, Altman declared an internal state of emergency and broke his ultimate vow. He cleared the path to introduce advertising inside ChatGPT, the very business model he once condemned as a last resort. But Altman had a hidden asset that others hadn't. Training human-like AI requires mountains of authentic human dialogue. Back in 2014, Altman became one of the largest shareholders of Reddit, controlling roughly 9% of the platform. In 2015, while running Y Combinator and launching OpenAI, he locked down a deal allowing his AI models to vacuum up every single comment, debate, and thread ever posted on Reddit. Millions of organic human thoughts were quietly converted into proprietary corporate fuel. Reddit co-founder Alex Ohanian later admitted he felt, in his bones, that the transaction was fundamentally wrong. A platform built for free community expression was transformed into the raw material for a closed corporate monopoly. To truly understand the unyielding pragmatism of the Altman Doctrine, one must look at how he operates when his dominance is threatened by ethics. In 2020, a faction of top OpenAI researchers, led by Dario and Daniela Amodei, walked out of the company. They accused Altman of completely discarding safety protocols to rush commercial products to market. They founded Anthropic, creating Claude, a rival system explicitly designed around defensive engineering and strict ethical boundaries. In February 2026, this ideological split triggered a national security crisis. The Pentagon decided to fully integrate large language models into its tactical systems of war. Anthropic, leveraging an alliance with Peter Thiel's defense firm Palantir, was the sole AI firm operating within the military's classified networks. The Secretary of Defense summoned Dario Amodei to Washington and delivered an ultimatum. Anthropic must allow the military unrestricted use of Claude for any legal warfare scenario, or face being blacklisted as a supply chain risk, the same classification used to ban hostile foreign entities. Anthropic drew a hard red line. They demanded a contractual clause explicitly prohibiting Claude from being integrated into autonomous lethal weapon systems, or used for mass surveillance of civilian populations. The Pentagon's response was brutal. Military choices belong to the Department of Defense, not private tech companies. The following Friday, Anthropic was officially blacklisted as a national security risk, effectively paralyzing their government business. Sam Altman didn't waste a single hour. By the end of the weekend, OpenAI signed a massive defense contract. They agreed to hand over their models to the United States military for any legal deployment. Altman attempted to pacify critics by claiming he secured vague verbal agreements against rogue weaponization. But defense attorneys quickly pointed out the reality. Those assurances are completely unenforceable. This is the core of the Altman Doctrine. To Altman, artificial intelligence is not a conscious entity requiring moral hesitation. It is a highly advanced piece of industrial machinery. It is a tool. He believes that stopping development for theoretical safety concerns is an exercise in naivety. Systems are refined by being thrown into the fires of the real world, even if that world is a battlefield. OpenAI builds the system, secures the contract, and captures the capital. The societal fallout and ethical damage are left for the courts and the history books to sort out. Yet, this unyielding ambition eventually terrified his own inner circle, culminating in the most explosive corporate coup since Steve Jobs was ousted from Apple. On November 17th, 2023, OpenAI's independent board fired Sam Altman via a sudden video call. They issued a scorching public statement, declaring he was not consistently candid in his communications. The board discovered Altman was quietly running a private venture fund and masking critical security flaws from internal oversight. 2 days later, on November 19th, Altman attempted a counter-offensive, walking back into the OpenAI office to renegotiate. Instead, the board revoked his building access and forced him to wear a temporary Guest 04 badge. He was a guest in the very empire he founded. Altman posted a picture of the badge online, a calculated move to signal to his followers that the founders were being treated as intruders. Some days later, Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella realized his multi-billion-dollar bet was pinned entirely to Altman's persona. Bypassing the board, Nadella checked into a San Francisco hotel and announced Microsoft would absorb Altman and any loyal engineers into an entirely new, fully funded division inside Microsoft. The day after, the trap closed. Faced with losing their equity and access to Microsoft's infrastructure, a total mutiny erupted on November 21st. 700 out of 770 OpenAI employees signed an ultimatum demanding the board's immediate resignation and Altman's reinstatement. Even Ilya Sutskever, the intellectual mastermind of the coup, broke down and signed the petition. Finally, on November 22nd, the board collapsed under the weight of financial isolation. The directors were removed, Sam Altman walked back in as an absolute monarch, and the nonprofit guardrails were permanently broken. Altman proved that he had achieved total corporate immortality. Those 5 frantic days proved to global markets that OpenAI does not belong to its scientists, its board, or its users. It belongs to Sam Altman. The underlying math of modern AI was discovered by Google. The elite researchers who built the models have largely fled the company. Altman didn't construct the machine. He built the cult of personality that keeps the machine funded. This is the fundamental difference between Sam Altman and the tech barons who preceded him. He is not trying to sell you a device, a software update, or an advertising portal to monetize your attention span. He is selling you an article of faith. He is asking the world to believe in a grand prophecy, a future where his algorithms will solve the riddle of cancer, dismantle global poverty, and reverse ecological collapse. And in exchange for this technological salvation, his terms are absolute. Humanity must surrender its data, hand over its energy grids, and fund his multi-trillion-dollar infrastructure dreams. It matters very little if his balance sheets bleed billions, or if his ethical promises dissolve under pressure. As long as the world believes the prophecy, the king keeps his crown. If data-driven intelligence is the new digital deity of our civilization, Sam Altman did not build the algorithm to worship it. He built the cathedral, appointed himself the high priest, and convinced the entire planet to bankroll the tithe. The ultimate gamble of our era is already underway, but if this towering house of cards collapses under its own financial and physical weight, Sam Altman won't be the one paying the price. We will, and nobody ever asked if we wanted to place the bet. This was Venture. Do you believe in Sam Altman's prophecy, or are we funding an illusion? Let me know in the comments, and remember to subscribe to the channel. See you in the next Chronicle.